Hello, Uggies Worldwide. I'm Dave Casler, amateur radio call sign KE0OG, here with another episode of Ask Dave. Today we're going to take a look at a new shortwave radio from Retekess. I look at these because very often hams are also shortwave listeners, and they might like something like this. It basically covers DC to light. The lowest frequency it'll cover is low band below the low frequency LF band that's below the medium wave band, all the way up to 1 gigahertz. There's a few omissions in there that need to be there, but otherwise, let's take a look at what we've got here. This came to me a few weeks ago from Retekess. That's different from Retekess. Retekess, this is says full frequency receiver and TF card player. There's a place over here for you to put in a little small SD card that can go right in there. You can play off of that. It also has Bluetooth, so you can coordinate with your phone. In fact, there's a special Bluetooth app for both iPhone and Android. Okay, so now let's take a look at this radio. This has not got the most intuitive feel. Actually, you turn it on over here. And that turns it on. Now that brings the clock up. You bring it up like this, it will bring you, for example, it's on AM. The volume are these two buttons down here. I know there's a knob on the side, but that's actually an antenna tuner for an external tuner. So you've got all kinds of things you can look at, and I don't know why the light isn't coming on in the display. It was before. Okay, so what you've got are a series of bands that you choose from here. Okay, the radio band, and you look up here, LW. Okay, FM, that's commercial FM, wideband FM. Shortwave, okay, and you can choose upper sideband, lower sideband, or AM. Here's medium wave, which is AM, and you can choose the step size. So it's either 10 kilohertz, which is correct for US, or 9 kilohertz, which is correct for Europe. Then you go the long wave AM, way down to 100 kilohertz, and we're back now to the commercial FM. Now, if you go into subbands, let's pick, say, shortwave, and have one come up here. It takes a moment. Okay. We don't need to worry about subbands or anything like that. See, this is taking us through the ham bands. 2.5 is not in the US. 5. Okay, so you can get to the bands. Now, UHF, VHF, look up here. This chooses CB, which you can get for AM. If you want it on sideband, you need to use one of the shortwave bands. This is weather band, narrow FM or NFM. Narrowband FM, these are the US frequencies for that. Keep pushing it again. We get to VHF, which will go down a long ways, like around 20, and all the way up above where you can get police band and stuff. UHF, here's 320. It will tune in the ham band. It will also go up to 1 gigahertz. So there's another ham band up there you can get. You can choose the bandwidth here. How much you would like the bandwidth to be. It shows up right over here. And selecting an antenna comes up over here. There's an antenna attenuator if you want it. Mode actually puts this thing into Bluetooth. Now let's look across here. We've got the time, and you can see that there's sort of an S meter in there. Why it is no longer lit up is beyond me, but you can see it anyway. Time set, alarm, display, different kinds of displays that you can display here. Okay, this will do a sleep. This does act as an alarm radio. The set right here, if you turn the thing off, okay, and you press set, long press, you get a bunch of settings up here. A LCD setting, B LCD setting, key settings, app enable, tone, timer off or on, mute disable, system reset, takes you back to factory settings. The version number here is 1.710. Okay, which is, I guess, their latest. A, LED settings, B, LED settings. We push this, and it shows time set, and you can change that around. Okay. And like I said, the user interface is a little bit confusing. It is better, actually, on the phone. You have the scan ability. You can store functions. You can store frequencies in memory. Okay, delete presets you can bring back if you want. Time set, the alarm. You can set the alarm. The display, there's several. You could display time whatever you wanted. Okay, and it does have a sleep function on there. Now, let's look down here a little bit. If you want to enter a frequency, let's get back in here where we were. Okay, let's first of all change the radio to FM, wideband FM. Okay, you push up the volume here. You can enter a frequency directly. Enter 1070 00 megahertz, and then you press enter again, and that way you get your frequency in directly. I think 107 is a legitimate frequency. In the US it'd be 107.1 or 0.3 or 0.5. Okay, tune up, tune previous. There's a recording capability in here. It will record onto a card. If you put it in there, you can play it back, like if you're trying to get a very faint shortwave station or something. Also, there's a whole series of equalizers in here. Normal, pop, rock, jazz, classic, country, news, and voice, and then digital to analog converter, analog, EQ, back to normal. Okay? So that's what these buttons do over here. Now on the side, there is a lock. Down here you lock everything. Here you just lock the tuner, and here you unlock everything. Check this if you're having trouble getting through it. Now you'll note here there's an auxiliary input, so it'll play from that, like if you're playing out of your iPhone. Headphones here. You've got the little slot for the card. They call it a TF card. And this is a USB-C where you plug in the charging cable. Goes off USB-C. There's no wall wart. Up here on top, we've got this medium band and low band antenna here. Be sure to turn it on if you're going to use it. And right here is an SMA male connector. So if you have an SMA female antenna, you can put it in there for receiving 2 meters and so on. This right here goes with this here, the antenna tuner. Medium wave, shortwave 1, shortwave 2. So it's just a capacitor, and so it only turns a half turn. This is what I would call an antenna peaking. It doesn't do anything with anything on the front. It works with this antenna too. This is where the external antenna goes in here. Note that this is an 1/8 inch plug. Connect the actual outdoor antenna to the tip of that plug, and then push the plug in there. There'll be a little soldering involved if you do that, but that's okay. The battery that's in here used to take separate batteries. Now it's got a rechargeable battery. There's no provision really for taking it out. No need to. Here's your recharging cord. This right here is an attachment actually to the speaker in the front, which allows the bass to come in and out better. And the radio sounds remarkably good.
To being on the path of democracy than any other Arab country. That's a huge deal. So making sure that countries that didn't help us in our fight against the dictator do not intervene.
The FM does work pretty good there. Let's turn that down. Okay, lots going on internationally. Subband, we see, for example, when you get into shortwave, you can go through the bands on shortwave with this. UHF, VHF is much more than that. This, you can set the bandwidth, and the modulation mode. You can select an antenna, little attenuator, the mode puts it in Bluetooth. Okay, and then you can put in, and you're, for shortwave, you're going to need an external antenna. You just undoubtedly will. Okay, so I'm going to turn this thing off. Now, do you hear that? Da 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 da. QRT. It uses Morse code to announce that it's turned off. Interestingly, when you turn it on, it has a CQ. It's cute. Okay, let's turn this off. Okay, now there's nothing to open up in here. The straps would go here. This is going to bang against everything in sight. So be careful with it. It doesn't come with a pouch or anything. If I were you, I'd build one. Just a pouch with a little bit of padding inside that this can go into so it doesn't get all dinged up while doing things. Now, I mentioned there are two manuals. There's nothing in the manual that says start here. There's nothing in the manual that has a picture of the front of a case with a bunch of lines going out to, like this, for example, you'd think it'd be a volume control. It's not. It's an antenna tuner. Okay, so there's nothing in the manual that tells you about that. It does give a couple QR codes. This is for Apple, that's for Android. You get the strap, you get this little brush, and a little tiny screwdriver. No real idea what that's for, but it's fun. Okay, and then it's got a function description of each radio button. So you can go through these and try to figure them out. How are you going to learn this the most easily? You're just going to tinker with it. After a while, you get very proficient at it. And it's got a lot of detailed information. But like I said, it's missing a few things, like how to listen on shortwave. Turn it on, how to use it as an alarm clock, things like that, okay? Now, this is the app here. The app shows some pictures of what it looks like to put the app in. And you can see that you can just tap the buttons directly for a lot of the functions that are up there. And I've heard other people say that this app is better than the existing human-computer interface on that. I wrote down a bunch of things. The battery's rechargeable via USB-C. USB-C is the new standard. There's a cable supply that's A to C. It does not take advantage of the fast charge capabilities of C or anything like that. It doesn't take terribly long to charge. All cables are becoming C anymore, and so it'd be real hard to get some other kind. The old FireWire cable for the iPhone is going away, and so if you have those older cables, hold on to them. It's a complete radio that tries to do everything. Now, the low band AM is still used in Europe. The battery is rechargeable. It's a complete radio that tries to do everything, cover DC light. Low band AM is still used in Europe. You won't find much on it here. It's got medium wave AM, and you can set it either for a 9 kilohertz step or 10 kilohertz. Do make note of that difference. You'll want to use the 10 in the United States. On shortwaves, 2.3 to 30 megahertz, so it leaves out the amateur 160 meter band. Now you can cover shortwave on AM, upper sideband, and lower sideband. There's no specific CW mode, so use upper sideband or lower sideband, but you can set the bandwidth to about 1 kilohertz. Note that for shortwave you most certainly will need an external antenna, or certainly a longer antenna. The FM for USA used the 88 to 108 setting. Seems to do a real nice job. I like the sound quality. It has the weather band, all the frequencies. Now note, there are 10 weather band frequencies, of which probably 1 is active in your area, unless you're in a big city with lots of airports, and you could have as many as 10 of those active. Okay, they're in the 162 megahertz region up above the 2-meter band, and they are FM. Also, you can listen into like a 2 meters or 70 centimeters, or if you are in if you are in Europe, the 4-meter band. All kinds of good things to do there. The button layout to me appears almost random. How to turn the radio on and off took my assistant and I about an hour to figure out. Like I said, there's no drawing with lines or anything to show you what the controls are. And we've got the on button way over here. Didn't you think that'd be separate or attached to one of these or a separate switch or something? But 'tis not. So now the way you turn the radio on and off is also hooked into a sleep timer. So you are going to have to go through the alarm section in the instruction manual very thoroughly, so you don't have your radio shut off when you least expect it, or for that matter, turn on when you're least expecting it. Okay, now the knob on the side is not a volume knob. You'd think it is. It's actually an antenna tuner. It will do the clock radio thing, and it displays the time of day when off. You can just touch any button and it will come up with the time of day, 1649 or 449 for civilian time. I assume there's a way you can set it for civilian time, but it is correct. Okay, the antenna situation, you have a whip built in, also rotatable directional antenna, which is the medium wave and long wave antenna. You will need an external long wire. It doesn't have to be terribly long, but 30 feet maybe. Get part of it outdoors and hanging kind of up so it can pick up some of the short wave. Now the tuner on this is just a capacitor inside. It only turns a half turn. Okay, so what it is doing is got that capacitor in series with the antenna, and it tunes it just like you would tune for transmitting, except not needing to be anywhere near as close. The antenna input is an 1/8 inch plug. You're going to want to solder your outside wire so that it connects to the tip. And so, yeah, already you're bringing your soldering iron out. Now, it is boxy, you got to admit. It's not friendly to hanging around your shoulder or anything like that. I would say make a padded pouch for it if you're going to take it with you. Yet now, it does weigh some, 2 pounds, 5 ounces. Okay, that's almost a kilogram. And so it's not light. It's a sturdy thing in there. Okay, now it makes the odd beeps. I talked about CQ and QRT. There are several methods of EQ. Now, EQ is equalization. So if we turn this thing on, okay, now if you push the EQ button, which is down here, okay, you see EQ normal, pop, rock, jazz, classic, country, news, voice, analog for DAC, and normal, back to normal again. So you cycle through them like that, and you can do some things to maybe make it sound just a little bit better. This is actually maybe a nice radio to have in the shack just to play little music while you're puttering away at something. Also, this would be a good radio for somebody who wants to do some serious shortwave listening, but again, the outside antenna. Okay, we talked about how the app will work with your phone, not your PC, but your phone. Okay, and there is one little feature that makes things hard to tune, and I'll show it to you. This is if we're okay, let's go to radio band shortwave. Okay, it'll get there. Okay, that's 7 7 megahertz. Now listen to this as I change the tuning. It turns off. If I tune like this, I'm not scanning the band. It mutes. It mutes. Every time you turn, it mutes for just a second and then comes back on. That makes it very difficult. Like if you're going on the 49 meter shortwave band and you kind of want to tune up and down it, fine, you would expect to be able to tune up and down it. But this, as soon as you move the dial, it's quiet for a second. You got to wait for it to come back, and oh, nothing there. Tune it again, and so on. So it really slows down tuning through a shortwave band, which is unfortunate. But otherwise, let's take a look on Amazon, see how much this goes for. This is one right here, sold by the Retekess store. All right, it's a $228 radio. Now, what's interesting about it being $228 is that that's about the price. You're getting into a nice Sony. There are other brands, name brands of shortwave radios that you can get. They sometimes advertise in QST. But I'm just putting the highlight on this one right here. So if you do decide to buy that, I think you will probably find it's easiest to control when using the phone app, and that you're going to have to put up with some frustrations whenever you turn the dial, because you get that momentary sound of silence there. You will need an external antenna. Otherwise, I will say that this antenna or this radio will probably prove to have been a pretty good purchase. Now, I want to remind you that if you have your amateur HF radio, it also is a general coverage shortwave receiver, and it will cover low frequency, medium frequency, high frequency. But if you want to get into stuff even higher, this you would need if you're going to listen, say, to some loud broadcast on a repeater that's a 900 megahertz repeater. Okay, so there you have it. The Retekess TR113, which actually is just a receiver. There's no transmitting in it. And it looks kind of funny to us hams who are used to a different layout. I do think they could work a little harder, that the layout goes in the way you operate the controls from left to right, sort of like we do with our general coverage receivers and so on. The least used controls are more on the right, the most used are more on the left. That dates back to the old practice of sending CW with one hand while tuning the radio with your left hand. If you'd like to help this channel thrive, why not go to patreon.com/KE0OG and see if you can help us continue to thrive. Thank you for all of your previous support and your ongoing support. Until we next meet, 73.